What's going on YouTube? Jamie the Kid 00 here, trying something a little bit new for a change. Someone commented a while back asking me to do a live commentary on one of my duels, so I figured I'd record one and give it a go. So for this matchup, I'm going to be playing Geargias myself versus a good friend of mine playing windups. I'm going to be playing Geargias on the Spellground mat, and the windup player will be using the YCS Sheffield mat. This is going to be a full match, and I figured instead of you having to listen to the really quite loud background noise that ended up being recorded in this video, it was quite painful to listen to. I figured I'd just record over it, and maybe it'd be a little less painful to listen to. I mean, I know my voice is a little bit difficult to listen to. Either way, we both end up kind of opening semi well in this duel. My opponent opens up far better than myself, especially seeing as they take the first turn, having won the dice roll, and they just had to draw an extra card because they realised that they only drew 5 for their turn. So he ends his turn by bouncing his rabbit and searching with Factory. I believe searching out the wind-up shark, but I could be mistaken here. Sadly, I did not give searching out the wind-up shark. I didn't give myself the benefit of watching this video over the first time before I decided to dub it. So my predictions may be a little bit off. So I shuffle up his deck, cut, and turn is passed to me. I immediately set the Geargia armor that I opened. It would have been nice to set that turn 1, but well. And I then set 3 back row, which should be a torrential warning and some other card. But at the moment, I'm really not that entirely sure what they are. I don't entirely remember, because I played about 9 rounds of this game last when I was at the locals. Either way, he summons another rabbit and uses that one's effect to trip off the Factory as well, proceeding to generate yet more advantage over me. So he's now got the OTK in hand in the form of Magician and Shark, which is always a bad position to be in as the opponent, because it just means that at one moment of weakness, your opponent can just drop the wind-up OTK on you, and unless you have an answer to it, you're in a bad situation. So he then sets 1 more back row and passes turn. I draw for my turn, spend a little while thinking about it, because the back row is kind of daunting. He's activated the rabbit, which allows him to search again during my turn. So he searches out the wind-up rat, so now not only does he have the OTK in hand, he also has his advantage engine with rat and rabbit, which I learned over the day is a very potent system. So I attempt to flip up my Geargia armor, and he immediately responds with Fiendish Chain to stop me searching. So I figure that rather than leaving a vulnerable Geargia armor on the field, I'm going to special summon my Accelerator and Xyz into a Gear Gigant X, to at least try and get a little bit more of a plus, or at least cost him another back row. So I drop the Gigant X, and he responds with Torrential. Of course, I have no targets in grave, so the Gigant just goes straight to the graveyard, and I don't get to special summon a Geargia out the graveyard with this effect. No real biggie. I've technically cost him 2 cards with that, so it was a 2 for 2. So he draws for his turn, and his 2 rabbits return to the field in his standby phase, and he normal summons yet another one. So he's now got 3 of the invulnerable rabbits sitting on his field. He then swings in with the first one for 14, and then swings immediately in with the other 2 for another 14 each. So dealing me quite a considerable amount of damage, I believe, leaving me on about 3,800 life points. So he's already sliced my life points in half with those rabbits, because even Mirror Force and things to that liking will only give me a free turn. They will just come back. So it's a very difficult card to fight unless you actually have field presence yourself. And as you can see in this situation, I'm kind of lacking in that department. Either way, play passes over to me after he's used his rabbit to yet again search using Factory. So I'm kind of considering my options here. The only monster I have in my hand, I believe, is a Geargiano Mark II. So it's slightly awkward. So I'm going to drop the Geargiano Mark II in an attempt to try and get my Geargia armor back to the field to try and set up my advantage engine again, because I really need to start generating some kind of hand advantage when he's holding such a huge amount of wind-up resources in his hand. So at this point, anyone should be able to realize the fact that I'm in a quite bad position. But it is really a matter of just trying to pull things back and slowly but surely grind the game back into a state which favours myself. Either way, players pass to the wind-up player. So he's just going to use 2 of his 3 rabbits to exceed, accidentally checking his side deck there, and now actually moving on to his extra deck correctly. And he's going to try and summon Leviathan Dragon and add a little bit of thought to it. I'm going to check my back row, and I believe I end up taking problem with this Leviathan Dragon. I'm not sure if I okay the summon here. No, looks like it's going to be okay. one thing you'll realise is I do spend a lot of time thinking against wind-ups, especially in situations where I have just such a bad field. Yeah, he ends up trying to drop the rat, which is what I'd been waiting for. So I'm going to warning the rat, because in my experience, there's no point trying to chain it or things like that, because he will just bounce it with the rabbit. That's what I've been holding the warning for. I believe I considered warninging the Leviathan Dragon, but then I immediately remembered that he would just go for the rat play anyway. So he drops a reborn and tries to get the rat off again, which really does cause me a problem. So I'm going to end up Fiendish chaining it on the summon before he even attempts to activate the effect so that he can't rabbit it. He's going to attack into my Geargia armor with the Leviathan Dragon to at least get it off the field. So it flips up and I'm going to search my Geargia Accelerator, because Accelerator is always really good, and I may have misplayed ever so slightly, thinking that I was going to have the Geargiano on field, but I'd forgotten that the rabbit was still there, so he immediately kills the Geargiano with his wind-up rabbit, which causes me a degree of difficulty now because I have the Geargia Accelerator in hand when I had planned to special summon it out. But regardless, the play is still on track. I feel that I'm in a position where slowly but surely I can fight back from this. I believe my set back row is a torrential as well, so I'm not in the worst of positions. Forgive me if this commentary is getting a bit dragging on. I'm literally sitting in front of the screen trying to dub over this as I as I watch play. So it's ever so slightly difficult, and this is the first time I've done this outside of Dueling Network. But I just figured it might be something a little bit different, and I'd like you guys to actually let me know in the comment section below if you prefer this, or if you just prefer to hear the banter and the horrible amount of background noise that goes on. So I'm going to drop that Geargia Accelerator that I had in hand. Look at my back row. Consider my plays. And then I'm going to special summon another Accelerator that I believe I drew that time. So I'm going to seize the two together. And I believe I try and go into the last Gigant in my extra deck to try and get my advantage engine going. So he okays the summon, allows me to search. So I'm going to go ahead and search for my Geargia Arsenal, because Geargia Arsenal is probably the most versatile card in the deck, because it lets you search out any other Geargia to the field. So it just gives you options for the next turn of play. I believe this has now primed my graveyard, so I'm going to consider looking at my hand, set a back row, and then look at the Avarice in hand, and remember that I believe that puts me to 5 monsters in grave. So I'm then going to try an Avarice to try and find myself a few more outs, because I am in quite an awkward position. The only problem with this Avarice play is it did put my Geargiano Mark II back to the deck, which was a factor that I didn't consider, and I feel like it may have caused me quite a problem. So losing the Geargiano was a bit of a problem play on my part, but I still feel that playing the Avarice at this point was the smarter move, because I really needed to try and garner a bit more advantage, because he's still holding, I believe, 6 cards in hand, including the wind-up OTK, and I really don't have that many outs to stop it. So you can criticize that play if you wish, but I feel that was probably the best play considering the time. And I'm not sure if this is the duel where I do it, but my draw off of Avarice was pretty subpar. I believe this is the Avarice where I actually end up drawing 2 Saizans, 2 of the Karakuri Tuna, which is probably the worst thing to have in this situation, considering I have no other monsters in hand and no other ways to make it live. So it definitely causes me a problem. So I'm going to pass play to my opponent, and he is going to detach from his Leviathan Dragon to put his attack up to 3,000 points. And because his rat is chained, he's just going to Xyz to get the rat off the board, and go into Zen Mains. I'm going to consider whether or not I want to allow that play to go off, because at the moment I could do without him having an even more advantageous board, but I'm going to allow the Zen Main summon to be successful. At least he hasn't used his factory this turn. So he ends up dropping another rat from hand, so this is a problem for me. So I end up torrentialing the board, which had been my plan originally to torrential, use the Gigant to get me a Geargiano back to the board, but therein lies the problem where I torrentialed, realised I didn't have a Geargiano in the grave, so that does cause me a problem. Looking at his Zen Mains, I end up tripping off my MST to give him less targets for the Zen Mains destruction, hoping that he might misplay and Zen Mains my Fiendish Chain, even though he has a dead one on his own field anyway, hoping that he'd at least make my Gauze play live. So either way, as if he wasn't in a good enough position anyway, he activates Avarice, sending the dead rabbits and the 1 rat that was in the graveyard, I believe, back to his deck, shuffling up and drawing 2. And I believe his draws were far better than mine. I believe he drew into Storm and something else ridiculous. Definitely better than two Karakuri Watchdogs. So at this point the game is really going south. There is only a minute left in this video, so you can tell. There's the Saizans. This was the video where I drew Saizans. Yeah, he drew Storm and Reaper, so he ends up going set 1 and I believe drop Reaper to try and hit something out of my hand. Oh no, he just sets 1 and passes, destroying his Phoenix Chain. Again, I don't remember everything that happened in this. So I'll draw for my turn, attempt to summon the Geargia Arsenal, and use this effect to at least get me, to at least attempt to get me a Geargia armor, but he's going to solemn that, leaving me with no monsters on board and a very small amount of life points to my name. So I immediately reshuffle my deck, put it back down, set 1 back row and pass to him. And he's going to finish shuffling up, and I believe put game on board. So he's going to draw for his turn. Normal summon, I believe, Spirit... he's going to heavy storm my back row, which is always good fun. Normal summon the Spirit Reaper. Switch the Zen mains into attack mode. And then proceed to show me game. But yeah, guys, this has been commentary number 1. Let me know in the comment section below if you've enjoyed this. If you'd like to see more. And stay tuned for game 2. But otherwise, this has been Jamie the Kid 00 with a dual commentary. Let me know what you thought. Peace out, guys. Bye.